Hi, my name is Alex Marrero. I'm a student at the University of Advancing Technology, and my major is game art and animation. What I want to do is I want to go over my student innovative project, a Clockwork Heart. My innovation was to create a VR experience that ties the emotional state of a game's character directly into the core gameplay mechanics, using emotion as something more than just a narrative tool. And I took direct inspiration from The Last Guardian, Journey, and Gris. Most of my inspiration did come from Gris, because in Gris, the gameplay is very reflective of what the emotion the character is experiencing. In Gris, the emotions allow you to unlock powers and change the entire gameplay. And this is what I hope to achieve. So when I first started my idea, I really wanted to get down the environment because I wanted to invoke emotion in the player. So in the gods world, I made sure to make it all very big so that they would feel a sense of astonishment. And within the humans world, I really wanted to make it feel cozy. So I took my time trying to make it feel lived in, like someone actually was spending time there. After finishing the layout, I immediately started working on a finalized product, which is what you're seeing right now. I would make all my objects, all my assets in Maya and bring them over to Substance Painter to manually paint them. I wanted to create a stylized sensation. And once I finished all the objects within the cabin, I finally started to move to the outside, which is the environment. I first started with a simple texture of the grass, which was repeating, nothing new. From there, I created a TCG scatter map. This way, when I changed the model, everything changed. A double-edged sword, but in my case, it worked for me. After creating that TCG, all I did was make a negative box so I could isolate the cabin. And in the future, if I needed to add anything on for the player to walk to, I could. And it'd be as simple as a duplicate negative box. And after finally finishing everything that I needed with the humans world, I would finally be able to move on to the gods world. In the gods world, I wanted to go for a grand effect, so I tried my best to make everything feel tall so that the player would have no other option but to look up. And in the gods world, the one thing that should catch the player's attention, the world's dome, but unfortunately, due to time constraints, the world's dome was simplified to nothing but a live camera feed and an HDRI, but I had hoped to achieve a miniature diorama. After all said and done, once I finished the modeling aspects, I was able to move forward and finally finish the coding aspects. Here, I struggled quite a bit because I was clearly underprepared for this. I had zero to little knowledge regarding, but moving past that hurdle, once all conditions were met, the player would be able to cast a wave that would stun enemies and allow the player to attack them with ease, with a specific motion of their hands. This was a big thorn in my side because there weren't many tutorials that described what I was looking for, but after some trial and error, I was finally able to get it down. But otherwise, the player would only be able to use this wave power if all conditions were met. Otherwise, he would have to rely on his own combat prowess. Here, I have a short demonstration of what the player was capable of doing in the current world, although there were plans to make it a lot more story-driven and have separate areas that they could travel along to. But to get back on topic, this was just a short demonstration of the gameplay which was currently available to the player. They would be able to pick up a sword and attack their enemies. But should they want the power to cast waves and stun their enemies, the method behind that was by being able to switch to their god counterpart. Once the player was in the god realm, he would be able to mix these conditions that affect the humans world down below. This would range from the wilt of the trees, the sun's brightness, the storm, the fog, and a small blue filter to give it a weeping effect. After fulfilling all these conditions, once he returned, he would be able to grab the floor and push away from his chest to send a wave towards his enemies, stunning them. allowing them to have an easier time attacking. The plan was to be able to mix everything together by having items that he can throw into the World Dome, but for simplicity's sake, I made it something simple like a GUI that is toggable, but nonetheless, without the right conditions, the player wouldn't be able to use any of his power. Here you can see me actively messing with the GUI controls, and although you can't see the wilt changing from the god's point of view, you most certainly can see the storm, clouds forming and disappearing as I shift the slider back and forth. Now by design choice I made it so all the effects didn't particularly affect the god, but when they switch over to the human it does, for example the blue filter effect and the fog. Now as we load up back into the human world, you'll actually be able to see everything that's changed. All the trees are bent over, they're wilting, you can hear the storm raining, and there's that blue filter I was talking about, making it feel a lot gloomier than it actually is. And with all the conditions met, we're finally able to cast that blue wave that stuns our enemies. Now, this wave was only capable when all the conditions were met, and as we revert back everything to their original state, you'll notice that we are no longer capable of casting that wave, which was something that I definitely struggled with because it wasn't something readily available on YouTube, so I had to make an amalgamation of multiple YouTube tutorials to get this effect. Which this finally brings us to the end. And on this journey, I learned so many things. For example, what to sacrifice to make the quota. At the beginning of this, I was very optimistic in what I was able to achieve, but as I started working on it, I realized I was thinking way too big with the time I had. But regardless of that, thank you for watching. My name is Alex Marrero, and I hope you enjoyed my innovation.